Welcome to Sports Memo's MLB Full Count Show. I am your host for today, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper. We have a great panel for you today. They are ready to close out the MLB season strong. But before we talk to them a little bit, let's talk about some promos that we got going on over at Sports Memo. It is Monday, October 3rd, and that means it's $9 Monday over at sportsmemo.com. All picks on the site are just $9 each. Tomorrow, another great day for promos. $2 Tuesday with three of the top cappers over at Sports Memo. Teddy covers the Gold She and Rocky Atkinson. And every day you can get $10 off any product priced $25 or more with the promo code Memo10, I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys back there. But I think that is the promo code. Those are going on every day. I actually didn't know about that promo code, but it's a great one. With that said, let's bring out our guys here. We got Nick here, also known as in the Insiders Room, and we got Dr. Chuck as well. Both top cappers over at sportsmemo.com. I know it is Monday, guys. Everyone's talking about Monday Night Football, but we still got some baseball left. How are you guys doing? How was your weekend betting? Are you guys excited for the MLB playoffs? Dr. Chuck, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I talk all the time. I love baseball. I hate that it's not as important as it used to be, but there's money to be made. Especially, I always joke the best money out in baseball is when there's a football game, especially a standalone football game like we had Thursday and the end of night, and a pretty good football game too. So there's money made in baseball, and of course there's the playoffs coming in a different format than ever too. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Nick, how was your weekend? How are you excited about the playoffs, the MLB playoffs? How's that going?
Yep. Was really selective with my baseball, went 2-0 over the weekend. And so, yeah, playing selectively down the stretch, I think you have to, for sure, looking at different motivation. We'll be getting into that with some of the analysis here. But absolutely love the playoffs for sure. Loving the format and just can't wait. Absolutely.
Awesome. With that said, let's talk about our first game here. We got the Yankees visiting the Rangers. This is game one of a four-game series between the Yankees and the Rangers. The Yankees are locked in, but of course, Judge is still gunning for number 62. On the mound, we got Severino for the Yankees, Martin Perez for the Rangers. Both of these guys have been pretty solid all year long, but the bats struggle in these specific spots. The Yankees average a run less per game against starting lefties on the road than they do against righties. The Rangers, they average a run less per game against starting the righties at home versus starting lefties. With that said, are we going to see an under type game, or is the total low enough to take the over? How will you guys be looking at the side? Nick, how about you? Let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so these teams play 4 games in 3 days. They're slated for a doubleheader tomorrow. As you pointed out, New York's already clinched the American League's number 2 seed. It has a first round bye. And yeah, you've pointed out Perez has been great this year overall for sure, but he has historically and throughout his career struggled against the Yanks. He's just 2-4 with a 6.33 ERA in 13 appearances. And as you pointed out, Severino, he's also been super sharp this year, but he's also struggled against the Rangers. He's 0-2 with a 5.40 ERA in 4 career games against the Rangers. And so I'm going to steer clear of a side. There's no playoff implications here. The only big newsworthy thing to note is, of course, Judge going for that 60-second home run. You would think that this would be a good opportunity for him to do that here against the Rangers in Texas. So, yeah, I just think that this number is a little bit low, guys. I'm leaning to the over in this one.
There you go. Looking for the over on this one. Dr. Chuck, what are your thoughts on this game? Are you looking at the side or the total?
Yeah, I mean, Nick brought up some points. We're going to talk about in our best bets as well as the other roundtable games, some more important games as far as this goes. I mean, obviously, importance is pretty big when you're going for what is probably a home run record. And I think it's been exciting to watch and, going through getting to this number, but he needs to get to that next number. I know we celebrated that 61 after a couple of games where he had all the walks and things like that. People that have my all access package or season package or had baseball all last year, just period, know that there's few. I'm very starting pitcher based. There's not a whole lot of pitchers who I might be like number one in the Dr. Chuck fan club. The Martin Perez looked really good. Doesn't get any offense. I would be remiss if I said that I wanted to take a side here. I can't take the Rangers in that offense, even if Severino isn't at his top form. There's just nothing about this Rangers team. They kind of took a different route when Woodward was fired, as opposed to the other teams that kind of got a boon. The Blue Jays and the Phillies, even though we'll talk about the Phillies later, are a lot different situation than the Rangers were when they made that change, and all those moves they made, all the money they spent. I hope that they have a contingency plan for next season. I'd be on the first 5 under here. You might get the hook on the 4. If you can get that, I think that's pretty solid. A little contrarian to Nick, but I don't have to deal with the bullpens, I hope. And I think Perez probably is going to not find the strike zone a whole lot in his 1 or 2, maybe even a third facing Aaron Judge. Nobody wants to be that guy. I can't imagine that Martin Perez wants to be that guy, and I'd be on that first 5 under here. Not really interested in taking the Yankees, except for being a rah-rah from the bullpen, from the dugout, for Judge getting a home run here.
Awesome. So we got Nick looking at the full game over and Dr. Chuck looking at the first 5 under. The good thing about that is both can hit. So definitely good information from the both of you guys. And now let's go over to the Phillies and the Astros. One game that does have a little bit of playoff implications here. This game is a lot more important for Philly than it is for the Astros. The Astros are locked in for the top spot in the American League. Philly is still battling with the Brewers for the last spot in the NL wildcard. Is motivation going to play a major factor in this series? How are you going to tackle this one? Nick, let's start with you again.
Yeah, so Philly's magic number is just 1. It just needs to win 1 game here in this series to earn its first playoff berth since 2011. They're 1 game behind the Padres for the second NL wild card as well. So, yeah, this is a big game for Philadelphia, a big series for Philadelphia. But as you mentioned, Ron, the Houston, it's on cruise control here. It's locked up the number 1 seed, and it has home field advantage all the way up until the World Series. So for me, once again, I'm looking at the total in this one, and we have 2 really good starting pitchers going head to head. Aaron Nola, he's 10-13 with a 3.36 ERA for the Phillies. The big knock about Nola throughout his career has been his play on the road. He's been this Jekyll and Hyde sort of pitcher where he's been much better at home than on the road. So he only does have a 4-9 win-loss record this year on the road, but he has a 3.20 ERA on the road compared to 3.53 at home. That's been a real big difference maker this year for sure when it comes to Nola, has been his performance on the road. Then we have Lance McCullers going for Houston. He's 4-1 with a 2.38 ERA for the Astros. I'm just looking at these starting pitchers. I think that runs could be at a premium, guys, and so my strongest lean in this one is on the under.
All right. Well, Nick looking at the under on this one. Dr. Chuck, are you looking at a total again on this one, or are you looking at the side on this one?
So right off the bat, it's interesting. Nick brought up Aaron Nola, and not a lot. I focus so much on starting pitching. I think it's really important with baseball, especially with the abundance of first 5 bets that you can make, things like that out there. Vegas got a beat on this guy. Since the beginning of 2021, as a dog, the Phillies are 1-10 straight up. That's not a spot you want to be in when you're in Houston on the road, no matter what Houston's fat and happy status is. They still have a chance to play spoiler as well. I don't think it's going to be lost on the guys in that dugout that they can, in a really kind of weird situation where you come down the stretch, usually facing off with divisional opponents, have pretty interesting matchups, Rays and Yankees and things like that. And it's funny that the Yankees play the Rangers to finish the season and the Astros play the Phillies in an interleague series. Interleague series are going to be a lot more common even next year as everybody plays everybody. I think that this is a really interesting spot where the Astros could start. I don't know if they're going to hold them off and keep the Phillies from the playoffs. And the Phillies don't even have to do all the work. Magic number of 1 means that the Brewers can do the work for them. They're going to probably be in the playoffs. It would really be a terrible week. I would definitely lean to the under. You get that 7.5. I like that 7.5. I do not like this spot with Aaron Nola and his history. I think it's hard to hang the Astros as a dog, period. But it's funny because even if it's Aaron Nola, the books are telling you as a dog, this does not go well for the Phillies, no matter who the manager has been for the last couple of seasons. I would be on the under 7.5. And if I had to take a side, you tell me just about normal VIG on an NFL spread, I get the Astros. That's probably where I'd be.
Nice. So both of you guys looking towards the under on that one. Slight lean also towards who'd you say, Dr. Was it Astros?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the line stands right now, but I think it's $1.15. And
yeah.
And I
the
mean,
Astros,
I don't know what I don't have the numbers in front of me on what the Astros are as a home favorite of that number, but they've got 100+ wins. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm assuming it's pretty staunch.
And they have a bunch of young guys that could perform well regardless if they keep some of the starters out. So, they got guys like Jeremy Pena and stuff like that who are young and
Dusty,
probably won't sit out. I mean,
it's not. I promise it's not lost on Dusty as a Reds fan and also kind of a Giants fan. Over the last 20 years, it's not lost on Dusty that you need to go into the playoffs strong.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always that momentum you need to peak at the right time, closing out the year and then going into the playoffs in that with that type of momentum. So that's a good look there by both of you guys. And now it goes back to you're just talking about spoilers. One team here can be a spoiler as well. The Braves swept the Mets to take over the division lead, but by 2 games. But the Braves, they can't take it easy. They technically haven't locked in the division yet. We got Elder on the mound for the Braves, Luzardo for the Marlins. Elder has given up only 2 earned runs in his last 27 and 2/3 innings, including a complete game shutout of the Nationals in his last outing. But the Marlins surprisingly won 3 of their last 4 games versus the Brewers in their last series. So it looks like they like being in the position of a spoiler here. You were just talking about spoilers, Dr. Chuck. What do you think about this one? Do you think Miami can mess around and take some of these games here?
I'm going to talk a little bit more about this as my best bet in just the next segment. So I'm going to start off by just saying a few things. Pretty big. I'm a pretty big Bryce Elder guy, but I'm probably I joke, the Jesus is on the mound, and that is not a guy I like to fade. Get that total of 7. Sounds pretty right. I talked about Dusty and these veteran managers. Snicker knows exactly where he's been, what they've done, what the last 4 months of baseball has been for this team. It's insane. I think there's something in the vicinity of, I'm not going to be exactly right, but 80-30, basically, after those first 50 games of the season. And that is exactly what the plan was. They did let Freeman go, and the people are wondering how that could work with Acuna coming off of the IL. It's worked out fine in the second half. No Soroka, didn't matter. They find guys to step in. Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder. I don't think they want to belabor the magic number of 1. We spoke about magic numbers. The Phillies need 1 to get into the playoffs. The Braves need 1 to get a bye. And it's huge this season to get a bye because there hasn't been buys in baseball for a long time. Since Bud brought the wild card in, we've been playing from jump. Even if you're the 1 or 2 seed, you play from jump as soon as the playoffs start on Tuesday following the regular season ending. They're not going to belabor this fact. The Mariners, since the All-Star break, following a win, are 6-18 straight up. The Braves, post All-Star break, following a win, are 16-5 straight up. I don't like anything about this. Luzardo has a hard time getting run support, period. I think the Marlins, after that Mets and Brewers series, I think they're thinking, hey, I think we're sending Donnie Baseball out the right way. They do have a little bit more to play for because the manager is in the dugout that they know is leaving. And so there's a little bit of a possible risk factor there, but I would probably be on this under because why would you take an over with the Marlins? I want to say one more thing just about futures and throwing things out there. Verlander and Alcantara are shoo-ins apparently for this award. If you want any kind of small, tiny little flyer out there for something that could happen, because Alcantara's been shut down, hasn't really made a lot of waves lately, and the Dodgers have 110 wins, probably 110 more. Julio Urias is 60-1 right now to win the Cy Young, and you put $1 down and you win $60, and I don't know how he doesn't get serious consideration because, we saw it with Jake Arrieta, only did second half, won an award. Corey Kluber did the same thing, second half, won an award. I just wanted to throw that in there that I don't know if you should maybe sell out your Alcantara stock.
That's a good point. If you get shut down for a period of time, or the amount of games that are key games, who has put that amount of work in, and
they
that's the Urias and
the
their
voters
squad there.
The voters make a point of saying Cy Young is not valuable. It's not an MVP. You know, like people are arguing that Ohtani would be the most outstanding player, but he's not the most valuable player, you know, because obviously Aaron Judge is more important. But they don't say that the Cy Young is valuable, which I'm assuming is why Alcantara is so much of a shoo-in. I just think, you know, the voting happens in a couple weeks here, and I just don't know. I don't know if I'd want to be holding that Alcantara ticket when they announce the
results. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one, the Braves Marlins here?
Yeah, so the Braves going for their 5th straight National League East title here. And I mean, Miami, as you say, it's trying to play the role of spoiler. I mean, it's been trying to play the role of spoiler for weeks, though. It's been out of it for weeks. And so it's been, I mean, that's all. I mean, the motivation is there, I guess, in a way. But yeah, Elder, I like Elder here. He's made 3 starts against Miami. He's 0-1, but he does sport an elite 1.53 ERA in those outings. But not the same for Luzardo, though. He's made 3 career starts against the Braves. He has a 6.26 ERA, spanning just 13 innings of work. And so I guess we're going to find out from Dr. Chuck what he likes here when we get to our premium selections. But for me, guys, I think that the Braves are worth a second look at this price. So my strongest lean on this one would be Atlanta.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think Dr. Chuck's going to talk about that a little bit more, right? When we talk about best bets. You know, just going through the card real quick. We went through 3 games. And the first game here was the Yankees Rangers. Nick, full game over was his lean there. Dr. Chuck with the first 5 under. Phillies Astros, both the guys on our panel with the under, look towards the under. Dr. Chuck also with a slight lean towards the Astros, especially at this cheap price here. And on this Braves Marlins, Dr. Chuck slight lean to the under, and Nick Parsons with a lean towards the Braves. We see Raymond Cummings in the chat here. Braves money line for the clinch. With that said, let's go into our best bets and see if Dr. Chuck agrees with him here. Dr. Chuck, talk about your best bet for today's show, and also what you got going on the premium side.
Yeah, so we right off the bat we'll just do the premium where it's it's $9 Monday at both sites, as well as a bunch of other deals going on. Actually, has my 30-day baseball package has kind of been popular, oddly enough, but I suppose it makes sense. There's just about that many days left. Playoffs are usually pretty big for us. Always tennis. There's 4 tournaments going on, 2 on each WTA and ATP. And we actually are opening up our limited NBA preseason plays, and we have our first play tonight. And all our plays today, since it's $9 Monday, are just going to be in one package for $9. It's probably 5 or 6 plays, including the Monday Night Football game and baseball. But our best bet, Nick pretty much just said it. I don't know why the Braves are priced at this. And just since I entered the play, I think it's gone up by 10 cents. So I still would play this at all the way up to 1 to 2. I don't want you to have to lay that much. I'd go and get it quickly. Since August started, we've talked a lot about the Marlins. MLB Full Count is coming to a close on the season daily show, but we talk a ton about the Marlins, and there's something about, and it makes sense why Mattingly's stepping down. There's something about them in the second half. It just doesn't work even with that pitching rotation. And some of the guys have been in and out, but not all of them. And that pitching rotation is only going to get better as they got more guys coming up with Yoris Perez and Edward Cabrera. They're just studs. They have like 6 or 7 guys, but he can't make it happen. And they're like 20 and 40 since the All-Star break. And it's a bummer. They've really kicked it up a notch since Mattingly announced that he was leaving. I don't think that continues tonight. I'm a Bryce Elder guy. I like Luzardo, but Luzardo doesn't get any runs. Luzardo can't do any winning. They haven't beaten the Braves one time in the second half. They're 0-7, 4-12 on the season. It's just to win. You don't have to. Normally, when you're playing the Braves against the Nats or the Marlins in the division, you've got to lay the run line for it to make any sense, and you don't here. And I just think that value's nuts. I already mentioned they're 6-7. Marlins are 6-17 off of a win, and the Braves are 16-5 off of a win. And it's just not a good spot. There is no reason for Snitker to sit a soul yet, but he probably could put a bug in their ear of the Acuñas and the Olsons and the Rileys that you can have a week plus off if we just win tonight. And I think that is really important after a 162 game season. And I think they do it tonight and don't waste any time.
There you go. Dr. Chuck with his best bet for the show on the Braves money line. Dr. Chuck also number one last 7 days in profit over at sportsmemo.com. I think a lot of that is tennis, right? Tennis and football. I know you're killing it somewhere over there.
Tennis and football recently. Baseball I've really trimmed it down with the size of the slates. But yeah, the tennis, I can't get I can't get the traction yet, but I promise people are slowly gonna realize that as much as you want to bet the Monday Night Football game tonight, there's about 6 tennis matches that are you could blindly bet easily and win those and not have to stress over Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's why the all access packages are important, especially during this time of the year where we're getting multiple like sports all over the place. Basketball, football, soccer, hockey, all this stuff is going on at the same time. Tennis. I mean, all access is the way to go with the packages over at sportsmemo.com. Nick, talk about what you got going on the premium side as well and your best bet for the show.
For sure. So yeah, over the last 2 weeks, I've rebounded well in college football. I've gone 72% with my plays. So yeah, keep your eyes open for next week coming up here shortly. And then yeah, I've been playing with house money in the NFL as well. That's carried over from a 9-1 run through the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl last year. So yeah, football's rolling. But yeah, I've also done really well with basketball. So I'm really looking forward to the NBA, guys. And you can check that out under the Insider's Room over at Sports Memo. But guys, for the show best bet, another team that has clinched a spot but has still something to play for here, and I think is going to not only win, but I think is going to win by a sizable margin. Now, yeah, the Mariners, they've secured their playoff spot since the first time since 2001. It's the longest playoff drought in all of sports, and so that's been erased. They still have a chance of taking over the number one wildcard spot in the American League. Now, they would have to sweep Detroit in these 4 games and see the Jays lose 2 of 3 to Baltimore. So, I mean, it's just one game at a time for Seattle. And I think the Mariners, they bounce back here. They had won 4 straight before Sunday's 10-3 loss to the Athletics. But I think this is a good spot for them to bounce back in. They're going against Brian Garcia. He's 1-0 with a 3.92 ERA, but he's been called up from AAA to make this difficult spot start. So the Mariners, they're going with George Kirby. I like the rookie here. He's 8-4 with a 3.21 ERA overall. In his only start against Detroit in August, he threw 5 scoreless innings against it. So yeah, I think, as I said, I think Seattle will not only win this game, but win by a sizable margin. So I'm going to suggest to lay the 1.5 runs for the near pick'em price. And that is my show best bet.
That's a good look, and I love it too because I'm from Seattle, so I'm a big Seattle fan. Regardless, Seahawks, Mariners. When we used to have the Sonics, I miss them. Hopefully, we get them back soon.
Sure.
You know, Seattle sports in general, I think it's trending in the right direction. Hopefully maybe not the Seahawks. I mean, Gino's actually looking better than Russell, but that's a different ballpark here. We'll talk about that on the football forecast shows. But this is baseball, and I want to talk about my best bet for today's show. I'm looking at this game between the Royals and the Guardians. I'm focusing primarily on Zach Greinke. He has struggled in this spot all season long. The Royals are 2-10 straight up in games when he starts, and they are the road dogs. Opposing teams are averaging nearly 6.5 runs per game in those situations. In 10 out of the 12 games, opposing teams are scoring 4 or more runs. The Guardians, as home favorites against teams with a losing record, and are starting a right-handed pitcher, 13-7 straight up and averaging close to 5 runs per game in those spots. They scored 4 or more runs in 15 out of the 20 games. Those are key reasons why I like the Guardians to go over their team total of 3.5 today. And you can find it right now at the minus 130, I believe, is the line at currently. So that's my best bet for today's show. As far as on the premium side, I will have a bet up for Monday Night Football tonight. I also have my eyes set on college football and NFL games for next week already. Those games will be up soon. I expect some of these lines to be moving quickly, and some of them already have. So I need to put those up real soon. Hopefully by the end of today, I'll have both college and NFL up. Also, NBA is coming up. I am Sports Memo's #1 all-time profit leader in the NBA after just 2 seasons with Sports Memo. I have a promo going on for the full season, which equates to $7 a day. So check out my page at sportsmemo.com. Before we end the show, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It's going to help us tremendously as we continue to grow Sports Memo. And make sure you head over to sportsmemo.com to check out all the amazing promos that I mentioned earlier on the show. And like I said, guys, this is the end of the show. For Dr. Chuck, Nick Parsons, and myself, good luck with all of your action. Until next time, peace.